We're going to be talking today and sharing with you the vision. As we've already said, this is Vision Sunday. Now, we normally do Vision Sunday at the beginning of the year, because that's usually the kind of time where we sit down and we pray. We take extended time over the course of January to just to fast, to pray as a church, and to seek God and to try and hear and discern what's God saying. What's God saying to us? What's He saying to our church community? What is He directing us and guiding us in for this year? And if you remember, back in January, the Lord said, don't do anything. I was like, but that's not on my agenda. We've got to do something because we're going to have a Vision Sunday. And so I was a little bit kind of like, okay, well, if we're not going to do anything new, then okay, let's do that. So it was kind of like a really uninspiring kind of like Vision Sunday. We're just going to do what we've been doing, and actually that was received really well. So we'll fast forward to over the summer. And over the summer, we started to hear God begin to speak to us in a different kind of way. And now I can see with hindsight why He said, hold off at the beginning of the year, because He wanted to wait until now to bring it to you. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be sharing with you about what is coming up for us as a church, what God has been leading us and guiding us into in the way that things are going to be changing. So, because this is a Vision Sunday, I am excited to share this with you, and I'm probably more excited to share what is coming up than I do normally. I mean, I'm always excited about vision because I'm an excitable person, all right? But I am super excited this time about what God has been showing to us and what God's been doing. And why am I excited about this? Why am I excited about this particular vision? Because it is bigger and it is bolder than anything that we have done before as a church. We aren't going to be taking any incremental steps. We're not going to be taking any minuscule-minded mission anymore. We've got something big and it's pretty hairy, and we're going to be stepping out with courageous faith for this next particular step that God has called us to. You'll be, as I've been thinking about this and thinking about the vision and what God's calling us to do, He reminded me of when God spoke to Moses and He spoke to Joshua. And you'll remember, for those of you familiar with the story, God delivered the Israelites out of Egypt with miracles and signs and with a mighty hand, and He got them through the desert. And they wandered through that desert for 40 years. And then He brought them right onto the edge of the promised land, which is where He was taking them all the time. And they had the Jordan River before them. And God said to them, I want you to leave the desert now. All of that is behind you. All the things that have gone before, that's behind you now. And I want you to cross the River Jordan, and I want you to go in and possess the promised land. And I can just imagine what Moses must have been feeling, what Joshua were feeling as they had labored for 40 years, holding on to this promise of what God was going to be doing for them, and just how excited, look, it's finally happening. It's actually we're going to do it. We're going to cross this Jordan. We're going to get into the promise that God has already had for us all this time. And I can just imagine their excitement. Oh, well, that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling that same kind of excitement as we stand on the edge of our future, as we stand on the edge of what God is calling us to. This is really exciting, and it is bigger than anything we've done before. It's going to cause us to rise up and take hold of courageous faith in a greater measure than we've ever done before, and it's going to be all of us that are going, because we're not leaving anyone behind. Right? We're all going forward, and we're all going to cross over into this, our promised land. So as God spoke to them, He said to the Israelites, He said, each one of you are going to have an inheritance. You're all going to have a place in the land, and you're going to go in there. But you know what? You're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to go there. You're going to have to take your sword in hand. You're going to have to go in, occupy the land, and fight for that land. But you're not going to do it on your own, because I'm going to make sure that all your other brothers and sisters are going to go with you, and they're going to fight for you, for your inheritance, for the portion that God has got for you. And so every single tribe was going to go through and fight shoulder to shoulder with their brothers and sisters so that they would all enter into and occupy the land that God had promised to them. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to fight together until we fully come into the fullness of the promise that God has for us. Amen? Yes. Amen. Amen. All right, if we're to be successful in this new mission, then we will need every hand on deck. Every single hand on deck, every person will need to know what it is that we're going into. And more importantly, they'll need to know what part is it that I am playing to see this come about. Every single person. Because you might have heard the analogy before that we're on a mission ship, right? We're not on a cruise liner. No. All right? No cruise liner mentality. Right? We're not rearranging deck chairs so that we can find a nice comfortable spot to sit down. No, we're actually on a mission, and every single person has a part to play, and every person needs to know that part that they're playing and how they're contributing to the mission. Are you excited already? I am. Yes, you're probably wondering, what is it that we're going to be doing? Come on, let us know. Stop short talking and get on with it, right? So, but before we do that, we'll get to that. What I want to do is I actually want to go and have a look at some of the highlights of where we've been, right? Some of the things that we've actually done, some of the foundation work that we've been through together since I've been here from 2018 until the present. So let's have a look at some of these milestones that we have achieved. When I arrived, we didn't have a pastor, right? We'd had 18 months where there wasn't any pastor, and the church as it had been planted, we had people that had drifted off into other churches and things like that. And we had a small band of faithful people, right? Garth was one of those. I remember being part of the faithful few that were left. Well, when I came to this church, we had 12 people. We were ready to close the doors. And so by me coming along and the ministry that we've started here, we have continued to faithfully preach the gospel. We continue faithfully to build up what God has already planted here in Manotick. Because this church wasn't our idea. This church wasn't my idea. This church wasn't anybody's particular idea. This was a church which God planted here. And he said, I want a church like this to be here in this place because I've got a specific task for them to do in this town. And that's why this church is here. That's why it survived those years of the desert. That's why we were here. And so we've ended up 5 years later, we've actually got 60 people who are on our records who would say, yep, I'm part of Manotick Community Church. This is my church. We don't see them here every week. Sometimes they're only here once a month. But they all contribute and they all say, yep, this is my local church. Well, that's a milestone. That's something we need to praise God about. Now, we have grown steadily and surely at about 10 people a year, from 12 people to 60. Now, no, that's nothing that we go, woo-hoo, over. But you know what? We're not going in the other direction, right? And that's good, right? So we've been seeing some steady, faithful progress over the years. We have incorporated and we've become a charity. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for any church that gets planted. You dream about the day that we can be self-sufficient, where we can actually get to that point where we can be incorporated. We can be our own entity rather than coming underneath somebody else's sort of umbrella. And we've done that. We've done that. So that is a milestone that we need to praise the Lord about. We've seen a youth ministry starting up, haven't we? Yes. And all the youth said, there we go. They know what to do. All right. That's it. You know, and we've seen, and we've spoken about this before, how God, this is very much a God thing that he has started up. So we've seen that start. We've seen discipleship triad start. So we've seen people getting into relationship and growing deeper in their faith with one another in a very intentional way. We baptized 7 people in the last 2 years. All of them have been in Garth's backyard, outside in the river, and that's just been awesome to be able to get together and do that and have that kind of fellowship with one another. We've done online alpha because we did it and started it during COVID, all right? And so we couldn't meet together, so we started on, I think we've done six online alphas, and we've done a marriage alpha course as well. And these are all things which are milestones for us. And we have implemented several church renewal practices, which is an organization that we partner with in order to help with that growth and that dynamic renewal of our church. And so we've been doing that. So we got much to celebrate. We got much as we look back on the past 5 years to say, God, we can see your hand working. We can see your fingerprint and your thumbprint over all of what we've been doing. And we want to thank God for that. You know what? In the middle of all of that, we had COVID.
Yes.
Right? We had COVID in the middle of that. We couldn't meet here. We all went online. And you know what's good about that? Is we had to rapidly change what we were doing, rethink how everything that we were doing, and God remained faithful. In fact, throughout the whole of the COVID time, that 18 months that we weren't allowed in the building, we grew.
Yes.
We saw growth happening not only numerically, we saw financial increase, we saw an increase over every single thing that we do over COVID. Do you know, we even had people visiting us from India, right? They would get up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning just to attend our online services. How good is that, right? That's awesome. So we're thinking about starting a 3 o'clock in the morning service just for them, and you're all going to be there online at 3 in the morning, right? So we grew over COVID. Again, God has been faithful in everything that we have done because he's that kind of God, isn't he?
Yes.
God is faithful. Through all the challenges, through all the triumphs, and through all the trials, God has been with us. But we're not going to rest on our laurels.
No.
We're not going to rest on the victories of yesterday and the things that have happened then, because a milestone is simply a milestone. It's something as a waymarker that you pass when you're on a journey, that you can look back to and say, something happened there and something happened then. But you don't stop there. You don't camp there, because the milestone is not the destination.
No.
A milestone is simply something that is marking part of an onward going journey, and we are continuing to go forward. So we want to thank God for all those milestones that we've had, but we can't rest on those victories of yesterday. We're going to continue going forward. The reason we're going forward is, first of all, God keeps moving. God is not static. All right, he just keeps on moving forward because more and more people need to know who his son is. And so God is always moving forward. God is always searching and looking for people who he can reach. And if we're going to be a church that listens to what God's saying and has a heart to follow what God is doing, then we need to be moving with him. We don't need to be camping and moving against him and building a big memorial to ourselves. No, that's not what we're about. We're not about to build a memorial to ourselves. We want to be on the move like those Israelites, following the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, because when God moves, we need to move. Amen? So we need to shift our focus of our ministry, because the needs of this community, our church community, and the needs of Manotick are changing. They're not static. In fact, we have seen some amazing changes happening in our village. And if we don't see that, if we don't recognize that, and if we don't respond to that, then we simply will get left behind. The village will keep moving forward, and we're just going to stand still, right? In which case we might as well just check out, right? Just, well, you can, I'm not, I'm moving forward. And you can come with me, or you can stay behind. But anyway, we're going forward because that is where God is going. So the focus needs to shift. Our ministry focus needs to shift because the village is changing, and we need to change with it. So for the first 5 years, what have we been doing? First 5 years is we have been working on establishing the church, right? Because we were just not much more than a house group, just a bunch of people that were gathering together, right? We have been establishing the church over the past 5 years. We've been building solid, healthy foundations. Because if you're going to build a building, you want to build it on solid foundations, right?
Yes.
I think reminds me of a story Jesus once told about a guy who built his house on a rock, right?
Yes.
Want to build it on sand. Well, this past 5 years, we've been building on a rock. Well, it takes a lot longer to build something when you've got to blast your way through rock. It's much easier building on sand. But what happens when the storm comes?
Get washed away.
Right. So we've been building over the past 5 years, we've been building foundations, healthy foundations, so that we've got a secure, solid bed on which to build. We've been mostly focusing our attention internally, right? And that's been deliberate, right? A deliberately internal focus, because we've been needing to build deeper foundations in our own hearts in order so that we individually have a solid foundation in our relationship with God and in our relationship with each other in order to build on. But now we need to shift our focus from being primarily internal and inward focused to being outward focused. We need to not just simply minister to anybody who comes in through the front door. We need to focus now much more intentionally upon reaching people outside of those doors. So we're going to be shifting our focus. And what will that new focus be? Our new focus is we are going to be focusing on reaching families. Now, we've always had in our church a desire to reach Manotick, haven't we?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's one of the things that really struck me when I first came here, was the heart of the leaders that were already here. It was always, we just want to reach Manotick. We want to reach Manotick. And so that's always been very much part of the DNA of who we are as a church. And we want to do that. And we've always wanted to have an impact on this community and demonstrate the love of Jesus to our community. But as I've said before, if you haven't noticed already, Manotick is changing. It's changing. Do you know that we are the fastest growing village in the south of Ottawa? Right? Within the city limits. Manotick is the fastest growing church. The second fastest one is Richmond. The third fastest one is Greeley. And all of those are 15 minutes of this church. So we have 3 of the fastest growing village communities in the whole of Ottawa, in the south of Ottawa, right here, right on our doorstep. That means it's changing. Manotick is not standing still. It is growing, and it is growing fast. Whether you like that or whether you don't like that, its change is happening. All right? Families with kids make up 48% of all households in Manotick. The Mahogany Estate down to the south of us here is building 1,365 new homes, 1,000 of which are designated as family dwellings. There's 2 new schools planned for that estate down into the south of us. When it's complete, that estate alone will nearly double the existing population of Manotick when that's completed. 5 phases for the Mahogany Estate. We're already on phase 3. Right? So it's not going to be long before that is completed. Not only that, in addition, there are new subdivisions that are going up. There's a new subdivision happening onto the north of Manotick here on the corner of Rideau Valley and Bankfield. 147 houses are being built there. All right? On Beaverwood, 1185 Beaverwood, 27 units are being built. On Manotick Main Street, the old Decker building, right? Some of you know what that is. 21 units are being built on that single dwelling property alone, right? There's a new subdivision going in at Antocky Lane, right? If you don't know where that is, it's right on the southern tip of the island on the main part, right? Not on the island itself, but right opposite, quite near where Garth is. He could probably throw a stone at them if he cared to. All right, so we've got 19 new houses going in there. So Manotick is growing, and it's growing fast. And it's growing with family dwellings. Houses specifically built so that it can have families on the inside of it. This means that in a couple of years, the demographic of Manotick is going to change from predominantly a small, quiet village that people have come to retire to. And it's going to change into a preferred place, and already is, for bringing up your family, with over half of all housing being occupied by families. That's just a fact. That's being built, right? That's not, we're not talking about a wish here. This is already happening. Manotick is changing. And if we don't change with it, if our ministry focus doesn't change with it, then we will be left behind, all right? So we want to make sure that that is what we do. So, this new focus on families. There's another reason why we have to shift our focus for reaching and ministering to families, and that is for the future of our church and the calling that God has on us as a church and as a group of people called to gather together to lift up the name of Jesus. Because families bring children. Children grow into youth. Youth grow into young adults, and the young adults are our next leaders. Youth, stick your hands up. I want to see where you are. Actually, stand up. Stand up. The young in age, not the young at heart. All right, stand up. Come on, let me see you. Be loud, be proud. All right, let me see you. Good, thank you. Awesome. All right. You are our next leaders. We are building a new church, this new focus of ministry. We're not building it for us. We're building it for you, and for you, and for you. Because you're the next generation. We want to have a legacy that we leave behind. We want to be handing over the baton to you so that you take this church on. You take this vision of reaching Manotick for Jesus and you carry that torch forward. This isn't a vision for us. We're not building it for people like me with grey hair. We're building it for you who haven't started, well, some of you have started dyeing your hair already. But anyway, it's for you who are younger and got more energy than I do. All right? We're building it for you. That is what this new vision is all about, because you are the next generation of leaders. So we want to be about discipling strong families. Why? Because strong families build strong churches. And strong churches build a strong nation. Do you know that if you've got somebody, a youth, a young person who grows up in the church, knowing who they are, knowing what their identity is in Jesus, secure in who they are, loving Jesus, loving people, caring for one another, and they're being discipled in that. Did you know it doesn't matter where they go, what profession they have, whether they're called to the marketplace or they're called to the ministry, wherever they go, they're going to be key influencers in our nation. Because this next generation, some of them are going to become our politicians, some of them are going to be our captains of industry, some of them are going to do all sorts of different things in different walks of life. They're going to be occupying the shoes that we occupy now. So do we want them strong?
Yes.
Do we want them secure? Do we want them to know who they are and have such a strength of identity that nothing will sway them and nothing will blow them over? Yes, we do. And that happens because strong families build strong churches and strong churches build a strong nation. And if you love this nation, you need to start building into families, because that's where the future lies. So we need to be focused on reaching and growing strong families and championing the younger generation. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do this? How will we reach these families that are all here? They're all growing. They're all signing up to buy houses that aren't even built yet. How are we going to reach them so that they can know Jesus as well? Well, that's a fair question. And I'm glad that you asked it of me, because I'm going to tell you how we're going to do that. All right? Here's what we know. Here's what we know. When we take a look at our congregation over the past 5 years, the reality is we have not attracted families. We haven't attracted families, and we haven't kept families. We've had them visit, we've had them come, but they don't stay. They move on. All right? And there are a number of reasons for that. And based on our conversations which we have had with parents, many of them being Christian parents who are looking for a church, and other people as well outside the church, we've asked them questions, and they have all said that 4 o'clock in the afternoon is really not a good time to have a family service. It's not a good time for us as parents to come out to a church meeting on a Sunday and be involved in a church community, because 4 o'clock in the afternoon really isn't very conducive. It's too near snack time. For kids, it's too near nap time, adults. All right, that's why we have coffee in the middle of our services, because you're all going, right? Because your sugar levels are too low, right? So, but you know what? Kids are the same. Kids are crankiest in the afternoon. All right, their best time. When's the best time for kids? In the morning, because that's where they've had a whole night's sleep. They're awake, right? They're focused. But in the afternoon, that's beginning to wane, particularly on a Sunday after all the sports and all the games and all the rest of it. All right. So the afternoon time is not good. Parents are getting ready for dinner. By the time we leave, we're going to get those kids ready for school for a whole week. So we have the best time for kids, as I've said, is in the morning. So we've got a hurdle. We've got a hurdle that needs to be jumped, because we have our Sunday service at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we can't change that. We can't change that because we share a church with another church, and the Chinese church who own the building, they have their services in the morning. So we've got a hurdle that we need to jump over. We also know for a fact that parents don't choose churches because of themselves. They choose churches to come to for their kids. If their kids are happy with church, they'll bring them. If the kids don't like the program, if kids don't like, what's going on, if a church doesn't even have a kids program, then they're not staying. And we've seen that as being just a reality of the past 5 years of ministry. So we've not had a kids program because we've not had enough children to warrant one. And we haven't had them come largely due to the fact that we've got 4 p.m. time factor. So we've got to catch 22. We're not going to attract families in order to have a kids program so that we can attract families, right? So what are we going to do? How are we going to get around this? What is our new focus? If we're to change course so that we can effectively reach a changing Manotick and disciple whole families, we need a new building. Manotick Community Church. Welcome to your new home. Welcome to your new home. We have just signed a lease on the first floor of this building, and it's one of the few buildings in Manotick that 1 is available and 2 is zoned for religious use. So we've managed to do that and we've signed it. This is where we will be meeting in the not too distant future. For those of you who are local, you might know where that building is. All right, for those of you who don't, it's right next to the Legion Hall on Beaverwood, just down the road from 37 units that are going to be built. Right, they're going to be our new neighbours. All right, so it's right opposite the main shopping town, the Manotick Mews. It's right en route to the arena where there's lots of traffic on sports days, particularly when hockey in the winter, and you've got all sorts of things happening. You've got the skate park there, there's youth hangouts all over the place. It is on a traffic route, so people will see the church sign because we've got permission to put a big church sign right on top of the building so that you can see it from Manotick Main Street. The top of Beaverwood, our road, hosts the Alan Hahn Derby kart race. That's one of Ray's favourite days out because he gets to play being a kid again. All right. So the finish line is right adjacent to where the church building is, and people come out in their droves from all over for that. So we're going to be right in the middle of that place there. The building is also fully visible to the Dickinson Day parade traffic as they come down Beaverwood and turn towards Giant Tiger. So people are going to see where we are. We're actually going to be visible in the community, right? That is good news. It also has, as you will see to the right-hand side, a disability access ramp. All right, so that goes around the back of the building and up the side. So we've got full disability access in this building. It has 40 car parking spaces, and of course we have the whole of Manotick Mews as the overflow car parking. So we've got plenty of space for people. Youth, kids, we have negotiated exclusive use of the green space that is to the back of the building. That means that we can have outdoor functions, wedding marquees, space for kids and youth to play in. Hey, amen. And for the older ones here, we can go out and we can do lawn bowls. All right? We'll do barefoot bowling, all right, or croquet on the lawn. All right? So it's But anyway, it's a big green space, and we have that. That's part of our lease agreement. All right, and so of course we will have outdoor space to put on community events that coordinate with Dickinson's Day and Shiverfest and things like that. Wouldn't it be awesome, right? That in Dickinson Day, when you've got thousands, literally thousands of young people watching the parade, that we can have a whole bunch of jumping castles and things like that. That would be so cool, right? All on the church property. So we've got a great opportunity here. That is the view from the top of Beaverwood down towards the finish line, all right, of the Derby carts. All right, so having a new church home will place us in the centre of the business district in the area of Manotick, right in the middle of it. We'll be able to change our service time from 4 p.m. to 10 a.m. so that we can reach families. We'll have space indoors and outdoors for kids and youth ministry. And most importantly, we'll be positioned to make a greater impact in our community for the gospel. We can start doing marketplace ministry because we'll be part of it. Part of it will be right in the middle of it. But wait! That's not all! Youth, where are you? Stand up. Are you ready? We have been interviewing for a full-time youth pastor. All right? We have been interviewing for a full-time youth pastor. So the vision is not just for our church youth, but it's for the whole youth of Manotick. Right? We are going to employ a full-time youth pastor so that, not just so that, they've got something for you to do on a Sunday, but so that all the other churches that have a similar size number of youth who can't afford a full-time youth pastor, as we come together as churches in Manotick, we can all share that together. And so we're going to set that up so that the other churches can also be getting into that ministry, because at the end of the day, we don't want to be internally focused. This is a refocus to being outward focused, and we want to reach the youth of Manotick, and we're going to do that by having a midweek youth meeting, and that is going to be contributed in with all the other youth from Manotick all the way around, so that we can reach all those kids that are just hanging out, getting into all sorts of trouble, when they can come in and make trouble with Jesus. Amen? Amen. So that's what's going to be happening. They're also going to be doing schools work and things like that again, so that we begin to build relationships with the youth where the youth are. So we're going into schools and doing this. So the $64 million question is, when's it all going to happen? Yeah. When is this all going to happen?
Yesterday.
Currently, this is what the interior of the building looks like. As you can see, there's some bare bones. It looks like there's ribs with no skin on it. That's because that's exactly what it looks like. All right, so it is currently being renovated inside and out. They're going to be completely doing the outside of the building as well as the interior. And the basic work should be completed by, drum roll, November the 1st. However, the interior fit out for the auditorium and the children's ministry rooms, the kitchen, the office, all still need to be built. That means that we need to do that. Within our current budget, right? We should be able to complete the auditorium and have it ready to move in by the 1st of November. Those of you who are good at math will know that is 44 days away.
Hallelujah.
44 days away, right? That is when we could be moving in to our new building, but just the auditorium, because that's all currently that we can afford. The rest of it still needs to be built. And again, just as Moses said to Joshua, or as God said to Moses and Joshua, when they were looking at the land and they were going to go into the land, God said, don't worry about it, all right? I will go ahead of you, and I will clear the land ahead of you, but I'm not going to do it all at once. Because if I do it all at once, there's going to be whole areas of the land which just go wild and waste. and the wild animals will take over the place. And I don't want you to move into something like that. I want you to move into something and occupy it straight away and use what you have. And when the time is right, as you begin to grow, I will move them out ahead of you. And that is exactly what we're going to be doing. And as I was journaling in my prayer time a few weeks back, the Lord brought this to me and he said, this is what's going to happen. Do you know, I believe, and this is just an absolute statement of faith coming out right here. I believe that at some point in time, we will have the entire building. Yes. The whole building will belong to us as we move into it. But for now, we've got the first floor, and we should have the auditorium finished, ready for us to move in, but we've still got a lot of work to do in building up those extra walls and the floors and all of those other pieces as we begin to grow. Amen. If we borrowed the money and we did it straight away and we got it all ready for the 1st of November, right? Then if we did that all at once, our bank account would be a desolate wasteland, and we would have wild bank managers after us. And we don't want that, all right? So we're going to do what we can with the limitations that we have, which is still going to be a step of faith and a stretch of faith for each one of us. So we will move in and we will occupy the new church building. And as we grow, we will move into those new spaces as God enables us and as we have the finances to do that. That is just half of it. Yes, exactly right. What you just saw there, that is just the auditorium, right? There's another half of the building and some, all right? So we've got that space as well, right? This is just simply the auditorium space. So the foundations have been built over the last 5 years. Now we start to build on top of them. As we begin to shift towards an internal focus, towards an outward focus. This is a vision for growth. This is going to be the ministry of the church as it adapts for a changing community, because Manotick has changed. It has changed and will continue to change, and we must adapt and change with that. It's going to take every single person to do their part to see the vision come to pass. Every single person needs to know what the vision is, and they need to know how they are personally going to contribute towards it. It's going to need people to run children's ministry programs, or we simply will not reach families if we don't do this. It's going to be the next generation that is going to be discipled. And if we don't do that, they'll never get discipled. We need people to give of their time and their resources and their talents so we can see the building work completed. We'll need financial resources so that we can equip youth and children's ministry as well as reaching our building targets. We need everybody, that's everybody, no matter what other part you might play. We need everybody to be praying in faith that God will supply every need that we have according to Christ's riches in glory. Yes, sir. And this is going to take courageous faith. Yes. Courageous faith on all of our behalf, yes, not just the few. It's not just the leaders. It's not just the youth pastor. All right? It says every single one of us is going to need courageous faith. Amen? Amen. And I believe that what God calls us for, He will also supply. I believe that God has all the resources necessary being given to our church to see this completed. I believe that. Because if God's called you to be part of this church, He's also called you to partner with building this church. And I think God has already given us everything that we need. We just need to start seeing it through His eyes and not through our own eyes. So where God has called, then we need everybody to do what they need to do in order for us to be successful. Amen? Yes. Amen. Brothers and sisters, we have scouted out the land. We have sent spies into the land. And I want to tell you that all of those people who say there's giants out there, they're just grasshoppers. Because our God is big enough. Our God owns everything. And if where our God calls, He will supply. Amen. The desert is behind us. There is no turning back. Today, we cross our River Jordan into our new land. Amen. Let's stand. Let's give God the glory, and we'll sing one final song together.